Yo, and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanjay. With me is John. How you doing, boy?
Oh, just posted up here, ready to have a little Banta Boys after dark at 10 p.m. here in Oslo. So,
Yeah, so you've already broken out the scotch for us?
yeah, this is actually Irish whiskey. So,
Ah, okay, fair. You mentioned off air you were watching the Champions League fixture. I mean, to timestamp it, we're recording on Tuesday evening. But which game were you following?
the Newcastle PSG game.
So I wasn't watching it, but I saw the goal notification come up. I immediately turned on a delayed stream, and Livermento did quite well for that goal, man.
Yeah. Uh, but I mean, Donnarumma, not great. It must be said.
I mean, since that Euro Championship, I feel like he's just kind of dropped off on a whole.
Yeah, I don't know what to really say about him as a part-time Italian national team fan. The performance levels have been sort of wavering, but never going to take the Euros away from him. So
At least one thing's consistent about my co-host tonight. Ryan is a massive Italian fan as well, so
okay.
Uh, th- yeah. Thank you for filling in, by the way, John. I know you were a popular request amongst our listeners and fans to make another reappearance. So I thought, you know what, you were the first person that came to mind, and you eagerly responded, yeah, let's fucking do it. So thanks for taking your time to chat with us tonight, man.
Yeah, no problem. Hopefully I don't ruin my newfound popularity here.
I'm sure you'll be all right. Okay, before we get started, what I'm gonna quickly do is, podcast biz, social plugs. So Ross, do your thing right here.
Yeah, for sure. So you can message us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handles at BantaB. On Discord in the Draft PL channel, Banta Boys #6585. On Reddit, /Banta_boys. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, and YouTube, all under the name of Banta Boys.
Okay, so hopefully you've listened to us, liked the video, followed the podcast on whatever platform you're, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Would really appreciate the clicks and whatnot. It just helps those algorithms, helps us grow the content, the brand, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so if you're new to the Banda Boys podcast, welcome. We talk about everything in the Fantrax game, specifically the default version of the game. So typically how we roll these pods out is we have two halves. In the first half, we do a bit of a data dump where we look back at the previous game week and look at some categories. Then we catch up in our leagues, see how we did, any moves that we're making, dilemmas that we're facing. Then we take our halftime pint, and then in the second half, we jump back in with Twitter questions and ones from our Discord. Come join the Discord, guys. It's a vibe. And if you're also, I guess, an old listener or a new listener, one of the things we started doing recently as well is we're doing our FA/River picks basically on like the Sunday evening or the Monday evening. So if you've missed that, please go catch that. I think that's episode 182. And this is 183. But as always, before we get started, we do like to have, a little bit of a chat, catch up, that sort of stuff. Before I ask you about Aston Villa, how's your club doing? I mean, holding a Champions League spot with ease. I did want to point out the fact that last time you were on the pod, a famous English footballer died, and now, yes, another one has passed away. I'm sure this is pure coincidence, right?
Yeah, I'm not Aaron Ramsey in disguise or but yeah, I mean it's super sad to see Terry Venables go, legend in the game. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tough one. It was right before the Villa Spurs game. this weekend, and I was afraid that Spurs were going to ride the momentum of that to avenge us for Terry, but luckily it played out in our favor, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, talk to me about Villa, man. Now that you've kind of brought it up, you boys are just flying, man. I thought, just on the fact alone that you have a very shaky away form, that it was an easy win for Spurs, but yet again, Emery pulls it out the bag. I'm sure it didn't help Spurs that they're running their B team at the moment, missing a lot of their key players and stuff like that, but you still got the job done.
Yeah, so I wrote a little bit about this in the Discord, and I think Spurs were incredibly impressive in that game. The energy level, commitment, et cetera, that they showed um, was really im unbelievable and definitely took us off guard. The first half was a total mess, and we were really just lucky to go into halftime down only a goal. But that's where sort of like the quality of the manager showed in this occasion, and Unai Emery got things sorted out right. I really hate this away formation that he's been using with Diego Carlos in as like an extra center back and then Cash at right mid. It's like good for fantasy purposes for cash owners, but um, we don't have like enough people that can confidently possess the ball in these games. And bringing Tielemans on for the second half as well as Bailey really like sort of helped us relax in possession and sort of get a bigger foothold in the game, which we needed at that point. And then it was smooth sailing. The team is really clinical, and that really matters at this upper end of the table when what's separating good teams from less good teams is really just how clinical they are and how good they are at making themselves better than the XG of it all, which is, as a Chelsea fan, maybe something that you know a little bit about at the moment. But also, I just wanted to point out that I think the Chelsea game against Newcastle and the Villa game against Newcastle were like really, really similar. And that place is St. James Park is ridiculously hard to go to.
Yeah.
And I watched that game, and it was I don't think it was so bad. So if that's a segue to you with your woes.
I was hoping to avoid Chelsea at all costs. I mean, even Prash in our Discord was like, can we not talk about Chelsea this pod? To be honest, I didn't watch the game because it was a 3 p.m. kickoff. And
Lucky you.
being the awesome rule in the UK that it is, they choose not to televise those games. So, yeah, I took it as a blessing for sure. But I caught some highlights, typical match of the day stuff. And Thiago Silva's age finally showed, I think, in that game a little bit. It also...
His error in the Villa game was really bad, too.
Yeah. And I guess I mean, hindsight is like a funny thing, but maybe Gusto was probably better equipped to deal with, the pace of Gordon. James really struggled. I mean, the first yellow card was really silly to just kick the ball away like that stupidly. I mean, fun enough, Sterling did the same thing in the game as well. So clearly the players aren't listening or following. Poch was banned as well for this game, right? He was up in the stands. So I don't know if that kind of plays on players' attitude and mentality during the game and stuff like that. But in a way, it's probably good that we had our worst performance while Poch was up in the stands, because you kind of get that FIFA view of how everything unfolds. And maybe he might have a different tactical plan for us moving forward. But yeah, it's disappointing that, after such a impressive performance versus the champions Manchester City, that 4-4 draw at the Bridge, that this is what we followed up with. But it's like you said, right? I wasn't really expecting much going to St. James's Park, but to get thumped 4-1 is a different story. But yeah, we move forward.
That fixture is so hard. I gotta say,
Yeah,
it's crazy how good that team is at home, and the energy level is just like off the charts, and you're either matching it or you're not and getting blown away. And that's what happened to Villa. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself.
exactly. So before we move on, there's two names that you mentioned earlier that I do want to have a quick chat about because I don't think they're part of any of our questions, or in any of the numbers that we're going to mention in a bit. But first one that comes to mind, Luca Digne. Last time we chatted, you warned me like, maybe trade him out on a high. Maybe it's time to get rid of him. Alex Moreno's, back. I think he's fit. He's been on the bench a few times. But it seems like Luca Digne is what's the best way to put it? Like he's allergic to scoring shit points. Like regardless of what happens, he just keeps putting out the Fantrax points. And his opposite number, Matty Cash, keeps flopping. And I mean we have a question about Cash later on, and we won't spend too much time talking about him, but with Digne performing so well, I mean, Fantrax is one thing, but on the pitch is a different thing. Should owners still be concerned about him? Like, I guess the Moreno threat looming?
I would say yes. Um, and on the last pod that we did, I think I also mentioned that it might not be like with um, like immediate,
Yeah.
but um, this winter schedule congestion is going to give Emery the chance to sort through the fullbacks and see which one he likes the most. And against Spurs, I actually thought the limitations of Luca Digne were really clear.
Mm.
And even though he had a good game by like the numbers, but he was receiving the ball in acres of space and then just going down the touchline and putting in a cross.
Mm.
Whereas Alex Moreno, with his top end pace, would be getting at the defender there and creating a much more threatening situation. And Lucadini was often like the spare man in attacking transition,
Mm-hmm.
but Spurs sort of just like let Villa have that because they
Yeah.
knew that he wasn't going to take anyone on and actually like create a high probability chance.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's like a level of dynamism that Emery wants to add to the team. The question is like, when is Alex Moreno going to not only be healthy, but like match fit, match sharp, ready to go with the same pace that he left with?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's like in another month. I'm sure he'll probably play a bit against Legia Warsaw on Thursday, and we'll get to see where he's at, along with Ramsey, Zaniolo, Duran, like
Mm.
all of these sort of rotation options for the winter.
Yeah.
And then we'll get a better picture, I think.
Cool. And last name before we jump into our first segment that I want to quickly touch on, Yuri Tillemans. There was a lot of hype about him leaving Leicester City. He was a big player for them, even a big player in the Fantrax game. I spoke about him in my waiver article for the Draft Society as well this game week as a possible streamer. With Boubacar Kamara missing the fixture due to 5 yellow card accumulation, I'm assuming Yuri gets his chance to start yet another game. I believe that was his second assist, the slide rule pass for Ollie's goal in game week 13. What are your expectations from him rest of the season? Do you think again, like you mentioned, I guess with Moreno getting the opportunity to play, given the fixture congestion, maybe a bit of the same with Tielemans?
Yeah, and as I mentioned in like my pre-season pod that we did, I thought that any game where like Tielemans is the player playing in that Luiz role,
Mm.
that player is going to score a lot of fan tracks points. The player that has the time to pick up their head, play through balls. Now, Tielemans was actually playing more of like a Buendia role in this game, which was sort of interesting. Not something that we've seen from him before,
Mm-hmm.
but pretty cool to watch as like a second striker. I think he played up there off the bench like once and was not very good. But in this game, he was a big difference maker. And with the way that Fantrax scoring is set up, he's the type of player that people should be wanting in their leagues. I think now him getting consistent starts, et cetera, that is a different question. I think Kamara and Louise are like clearly preferred to him in the midfield too. So he's already started off the left. Now he's played 45 minutes at like supporting striker. So who knows where he's going to get in the team going forward, but Emery clearly really likes his tactical versatility, and he can do sort of a lot of the things that John McGinn does for the team, where you can just use them wherever and they'll fit in.
Yeah, I love that versatility in a player, man. He is definitely a class player. All right, now I think we will jump into our first segment, which is the data dump.
Ay, 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 ay. Fantasy with the Banta Boys.
All right, so looking back at game week 13, we're going to start off with key passes. So the highest number of key passes recorded was 6 by Pascal Gross, then 5 by Bukayo Saka, then 4 by Jeremy Doku, James Garner, Morgan Gibbs-White, Johan Goodmanson, Pedro Porro, and Toffolo. I forgot Toffolo's first name, but thoughts, John?
Harry Toffolo.
Oh, right. The most English name
Yeah.
possible. How could I forget that?
Yeah, well, my first thought is that I dropped Toffolo, and I didn't think I would regret it. And you know what? I still don't regret it, but
No
uh,
way. Really?
yeah, yeah. Look, spring cleaning, out with the old, in with the new, or winter cleaning in this case. But
Yeah.
this defense position in my leagues has been sort of I'm just bringing in new people every week. But also Pascal Gross is pretty interesting. I mean, Forest is a team that if they score first, the other team is going to create a lot of opportunities. But to see Gross at the top of the list with 6 key passes is really impressive.
Mm.
He's sometimes around this list, but usually isn't going to be like the number one.
Yeah.
And that game was absolutely insane. So getting the key passes in like the game state that he got them in was pretty impressive as well, because Brighton were down to 10 men for like the final 15 minutes of that one.
Yeah, and I think Pascal Gross got 2 assists as well.
Whew.
Yeah, so listen, he's always been like a player that racks up key passes for Brighton. Regardless of the season, regardless of the manager, he's always been up and around like, the top 2, top 3 players for Brighton. But yeah, I think just a consistent performer. But you're right, like it is strange to see him up there by himself. A couple of, I guess, fullbacks here as well. Pedro Porro taking corners in Madison's absence. Maybe that helps his numbers a lot. I mean, Toffolo, I think, like, I know you play in an auction league, and maybe your rules are different, but I think standard 12-man league, like, Toffolo is definitely a player that you want to be rostering, because I think he still managed to score 4 points after conceding 3 goals as well. And he's known for creating chances. I think he's probably the best defensive attacking outlet that they have, Forest. But yeah, the rest of them, I think, fairly straightforward, fairly standard. Goodmanson, though, yet again, popping up with key passes. He's really coming along the last few game weeks.
Yeah, I don't like. West Ham are terrible, and they made Burnley look good for large swaths of that game. I don't know. I just don't know if I buy. If I don't know if I'm buying Goodmanson stock.
Fair. What if I was to tell you over the last 4 game weeks he's been averaging 10.5 ghost points per game?
That's pretty good. Then you're starting to speak my language. I think he's rostered in my league, but what's Burnley's schedule in that period?
So Burnley actually have a great run of fixtures at the moment. So this game week they've got Sheffield United at home, Wolves
Oh
away,
yeah.
Brighton away, Everton at home, Fulham away.
Yeah,
Nice
so
games.
for sure plug him in for that run
Yeah,
until like the Liverpool fixture. Um,
yeah.
but I don't know.
It's tough, man. Like I mean, everyone that listens to this pod and everyone around the Fantrax community knows my love for Burnley. I still think they're a decent team. They play decent football, but they just lack, I think, some level of Premier League maturity to close out games, to, avoid, you know, losing game state, that sort of stuff. Like, from what I understood and heard and watching highlights and stuff like that, I think, like you said, they controlled majority of the game, like up to like maybe the 85th minute, and then last few minutes of the game they just let it slip. And yeah, I mean, you keep doing that, the Premier League is gonna eat you up, spit you out, and yeah, it is not one for the light-hearted. So I don't know. It's they're still able to create chances. I'm still gonna plug him against Sheffield United for sure.
Yeah,
But
against Sheffield United makes a ton of sense.
yeah,
Honestly, like I hate to be so negative about the promoted teams, but like
they're so bad.
Villa have played Luton and Burnley, and like the quality level difference between those two games in every single other team that we've played this season was like night and day. Where it's
Yeah,
just like it's impossible for me to take either of those teams seriously as like, well, okay, so like Luton puts in like professional performances
yeah,
and their players just aren't good enough to do the tactics, and it's like incredibly boring. And I guess we'll touch on this a little bit later, maybe. Um, but Burnley, like you're saying, is just like totally naive
yeah,
and doesn't have any sort of like street smarts for the Premier League.
hundred
And
percent.
so I started Dara O'Shea this week, who was like really good, and it looks like he's a name that
Mm,
we'll talk about in one of the other categories. And what does he do
yeah,
in like the 75th minute, but like score like a tap in type own goal where, of course it's the type of thing where like you need to deal with the cross
yeah,
or whatever, but it's just like,
yeah,
give me a break. You
yeah.
know, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I think prior to them conceding that own goal or whatever, like when the ball came in for a cross, they should have cleared it properly, and
Yeah.
they didn't clear it, and the ball just kind of stayed in their zone. They panicked a bit, somehow got it out the box, but yeah, once that kind of like nervousness or that nervous energy settles in to your team, like it's hard to not concede.
They
And
were
yeah,
cruising in that game, and it's just
yeah.
like, it's honestly, I think I might have like so much like PTSD from watching Burnley play because it is exactly how like Villa played when they first came back up, and it was like no lead is safe, no good performance is safe.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, it's sort of a brutal watch. So
exactly.
sorry to the Burnley fans out there. I'm sure you're having a rough go of it already, but this I'm sure isn't making it any better.
All right. Next, we've got shots and how many were on target. So the highest number of shots recorded in Game Week 13 was 7 by Morgan Gibbs White. He had only 1 on target, and that must have been his penalty, which is kind of sad.
Oh my
Um,
God.
then 6 shots attempted by Tavernier. He had 5 of them on target. Go figure. And then 5 shots attempted by DCL with 3 on target. Holland with 2 of 5 on target. And Michael Elise, back from injury, 1 of his 5 shots on target. Quick thoughts, John?
Yeah, so I mean, this is sort of like a tale of two good midfielders with Morgan Gibbs White and Tavernier being good midfielders in very different ways. Morgan Gibbs White being sort of, although his name is incredibly boring, being more of sort of like a force of nature on the field. So, uh, he was really impactful in that game against Brighton. But also from like a fan tracks perspective, I feel like there's always something missing with him. Like he's
Mm,
the type of player where there's like 90% good and 10% bad. And a lot
yeah.
of the time people focus on the 10% bad. And
Yeah.
in the Discord channel, we've been talking a lot about him, I feel like in like trade options and stuff like that. And there's just this like community feel around him that's so divisive because I mean he is maybe just the most divisive player. Whereas
Yeah.
in my mind, so I'm a Tavernier owner and
Mm,
am like uh, the chairman of the board when it comes to Tavernier stock because he is so consistent
yeah.
and is so technically proficient
Mm-hmm.
and sort of gives you Pascal Gross vibes in the sense that
Mm-hmm.
it's like his crosses are on target, his shots are on target. He usually makes the right decision if he gets the
Yeah.
ball in open space, and because of that, it's like he has a point floor that is really good and a
Mm-hmm.
ceiling that is like ridiculous if Bournemouth weren't terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Spot on.
And Bournemouth's
Honestly.
fixtures are insane as well. So
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Tavernier town time.
Yeah. I mean, reminder of Bournemouth's fixtures: Villa at home, Crystal Palace away, United away, Luton at home, Forest away, Fulham at home, Spurs away. That's good. That's
Those are
all good point
all
potential.
targets except maybe Spurs away. I mean, I would like to think that Villa at home isn't a target fixture, but we're not that good away from home, so they could
Yeah.
get at us. I'm quite worried about that Bournemouth fixture actually. It's a real trap game for Villa.
Yeah. The thing is with the whole Gibbs White like split opinion thing is I feel like managers were spoilt by his points output last couple of seasons and we're just like okay gonna get more of the same and he was pretty much tipped as like a round 2 pick, round 3 latest I would say if you were lucky to get him that late. And maybe they're just expecting that level of consistency but you can see like a day and night sort of points output from him, right? Flat track bully, shit against big teams,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why they're like, okay, we drafted him so high, we need something better. But at this point, I think you just plug him and play him.
Yeah.
Forget about what's coming because he takes penalties, he takes set pieces, like. He can easily prove you wrong on a day. And sure, yes, he's had some shit scores, but there's a lot worse out there. So I wouldn't be complaining. I'd just sit down, relax, and worry about other spots in your roster.
In my league, he's better this season than he was last season on a points per game basis.
There you go. So it could just be also league dependent as well, right? Just have some fun with your league scoring next time, and you won't have to worry about it at all.
I don't think it's too much crazier than default. I think he's been good. Like it's just he does annoying stuff. Like take
Yeah.
7 shots or whatever and put one of them on target and the one of them that's on target is a penalty. And so you watch the
That's
games and you're like, what the hell, man? But he's still good. It comes through in the scoring.
So what you're saying is he's really good at penalties. All right, next one is Acker crosses into the box. So highest number was 4 by Elise, 3 by yet again Morgan Gibbs White. Yeah, Morgan Gibbs White cooked this week, but let's touch on Elise, man. Eze now off for a few weeks. Elise is the one to kind of step up. I mean,
Back in action, baby.
He's got a damn good delivery on him as well.
Yeah, he's saucy. I remember watching him for Reading in the championship, and he was like, all the Villa fans wanted to sign him, but he chose
Yeah.
to stay in London, and he's a heck of a player. I mean, wand of a left foot, as they say.
That
But
finish though.
um, yeah, these next 4 game weeks without Eze, he should have like an insane level of responsibility. Who are they playing?
West Ham away, Bournemouth at home, but then they are hosting Liverpool and then away to the Etihad.
Oh my God. Well, those first 2 weeks are going to be really good fixtures.
Yeah.
Palace, I think, have been one of the disappointments of the season. And I know they have injury issues and stuff like that, but they've really just played uninspiring football. Um, I guess the idea was that with Eze and Elise back, they'll have like threats on each side that will,
Mm.
but they can never seem to be healthy at the same time. And now Eze is going to miss the whole festive fixture list probably,
Yeah.
and it's still a little disappointing. But Elise, there's two great fixtures in there, two less great, but he'll have all of the creative duties. So you should play him no matter what, but maybe just expect a little bit more out of those first two.
Yeah, boy is just, they're getting the job done, get a result here, maybe lose a few, compliment the other teams. Like, no one's going to hate on Roy. They're going to stay up. Like, but I guess in
Yeah.
terms of ambition, like, having gotten to semifinal just last season, was it? In one of the cup competitions?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you'd kind of want to see them kick on from there. But yeah, I guess they're just happy, existing in the Prem.
Football
So
wise, it just feels like Wolves, Palace, and Fulham are sort of like in the league to make up the numbers this season.
yeah.
And it's really hard for me to be passionate about them in any way. Like that Wolves Fulham Monday night game was crazy
Terrible.
entertaining, crazy entertaining, and I somehow found myself being like, this does not matter. It was like watching like
It
a
was so
strange
bad.
like foreign league game where like a game in Latvia or something that you just tune into where it's like, okay, this is just vibes.
Really, yeah. It was literally background noise for me last night, and there were 3 penalties.
Yeah.
Like it just kept going, and you thought there was maybe going to be a 4th penalty at one point,
Oh
but
my God.
yeah, it was just ridiculous, man. Okay, let's move on to the final one, which is the extra categories. So highest number of tackles, one was 5 by Norgard. Highest number of dispossessions was 7 by Solanke.
Holy
Then
hell.
right up right up behind him was 5 by Kudus.
Ugh.
Interceptions, there was a high of 4 by Castagne, Gay, Lockyer, Onyeka, and Murillo. Clearances, there was a high of 12 by Pinnock, 10 by Menji. Successful dribbles, 12 by Jeremy Goku, Son Goku, Doku, 6 by Kulusevski, 5 by Kudus. Aerials, there was a high of 8 by Senesi, 7 by McBurney, who only played 45 minutes, and O'Shea also got 7 aerials. And then finally, block shots, 4 by Matip, and then 3 by Dunk while he was on the pitch, and 3 by Lindelof as well. Thoughts, John?
Yeah, so you guys mentioned Mengi on the waivers pod.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's sort of relevant to one of the questions that we might touch on later, but I was sort of like intrigued on like I wasn't familiar with your game type level earlier today and was sort of checking into his stats. I was like, maybe I'm gonna try and bring him in, but there wasn't anything too inspiring there, but I feel like he could be the Luton defender to own if you were in a situation where you wanted to own a Luton defender, and in which case I feel profoundly sorry for you. And then obviously like the number that jumps off the page, other than 7 dispossessions for Solanke, which is the 12 completed dribbles for Doku. And I think like this guy is unreal for fantasy. I think I said in the Discord that these are like peak Adama Traore numbers, except in a system where you're reliably going to get end product.
He broke up to that day, right? Like the game couldn't keep up
Yeah, it
with
was
how
ridiculous.
many dribbles he was doing. Like every time you refresh it, there was a new score. There was a
the
new
COS
score,
is
and
just
it was still
rolling in,
updating.
baby. He's on my team. I was fired up. I saw Trent just backing off him constantly and was just like, yes.
Oh, and it's the sad thing. The only thing I really noticed about that game was Trent cut his hair again. He looks like baby boy Trent all over again. He scored a banger of a goal. I want to say it was a good finish. Is Trent back? I don't know.
He never left. But also that game, Is it allowed? Are we allowed to say that the two best teams in the league this season, or maybe two of the three best teams in the league this season, are absolute hell to watch? Like every single Manchester City and Arsenal game is a chore to get through. The Arsenal Brentford game, one of the worst games I've seen in my entire life.
Yeah. I mean, it's fitting as well that Kai actually scored the winner then.
Yeah. And but
Like,
the City
it's
Liverpool
weird.
game was
Like,
not much better. Like I get that it's like a tactical chess match and stuff, but there were
yeah,
there were not a lot of chances from open play. I was pretty bored.
yeah. It's like, I mean, the City Liverpool one, I wouldn't knock too much because I mean Liverpool was also the team that I think I tipped to win the title, if not City, like by default. But Arsenal, I don't know if I said it on this pod, but I've definitely talked to people off air about it. Is that their defense? They look fucking strong in defense. Like they could
Yeah.
probably keep clean sheets for days. But their attack, something is missing. Something is off. You know, people keep talking about the Xhaka link missing and all that. But even like last few game weeks, I've either seen it in the numbers or heard it on other podcasts. But like Saka's not even shooting anymore.
No. Yeah, his like over like the last 5 game weeks or something, his XG is 0.6 or something.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It's weird, man.
Yeah, it's just tough for me to get through, honestly. I like I'm an Odegaard owner, and I like watched the game like basically being the meme of like the guy pointing with a stick saying do something. Where it's you remember last season where they were playing such fluid football and like everyone was getting involved in every move. And now I'm just like looking at the TV watching them like statically pass the ball around thinking what has happened to the game I love. And then Declan Rice just runs 90 meters in the span of 3 seconds and saves every situation. And they're amazing in defense. I think they'll probably win the league, honestly, in terms
They
of
could.
just like their
Yeah.
defense. They just have to score one goal
Yeah.
in a game to win.
Yeah. Unless Ramsey lives in that. Because my God, that was a scary watch.
Yeah, it was brutal.
At various points during
I
that
felt
game.
bad for him, dude. I have to say. I thought like the first mistake I thought was funny, and then it was just like, oh, this is a person with shattered confidence. This is not
Yeah.
entertaining. This is just sad.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next segment, which is league updates. All right, John, talk to us. Catch us up in your league. How's your season going so far?
Let's go, baby. It's going great. I'm on top of the table, 9-4 with the most points scored. Just got a win in a big rivalry match over one of my league mates, and he put up a ton of points, so all credit to him. But and he had Bellegarde in that last game, who uh, looked like he was going to go off, but thankfully he got subbed off at 60 minutes for Kalajic. Um, there's another huge matchup this week. I'm playing the other guy who's tied at the top of the standings with 9-4, so could go to outright first place this week. So pretty good.
Nice, man. So what was good about your roster this week? Regrets? Any concerns moving forward? And what moves did you make?
Yeah, so basically the fundamentals for my team this season has just been letting Jeremy Doku and Ollie Watkins cook, and then finding good streamers, and that's basically what I did this week, except Tavernier cooked and Watkins put up like a Tavernier score.
Yeah, I came up against Tav this week, but
Or
it's your update.
Tavernier.
Let's focus on on yours.
I streamed in Lo Celso from waivers prematurely, which paid off. streamed in Fodderingham, which prompted me in our like league chat to say that next season we're gonna deduct something like 3 to 5 points for errors that directly lead to goals, especially with goalkeepers, because you shouldn't be able to put up 12 points. Well, in my league it was 12 points with
Jeez.
uh, basically giving the ball to the other team and letting them score. Um, and that was about it. I had terrible defender streamers, but my mid and forwards just carried the load.
Nice. Yeah, I have no idea what Fotheringham was doing outside
Oh,
that
dude,
far.
that was a clown
That
show.
goal. Yeah, I mean it's like you said, man. The promoted teams are like I can't remember the last time it was this bad, honestly.
Yeah, I was listening to the Double Pivot podcast today, and they
Mm,
were talking about the relegation battle. And there's like
mm,
their database has it that no team has ever been as bad as Sheffield United.
jeez. Wow. Yeah, it's quite sad, man. It's quite sad. All right. Any other updates you want to give? Anything else you want to touch on? I
Uh,
mean, you made some moves, which
yeah, do you
I
want
do
me
want
to
to quickly touch on.
just babble so that you don't have to talk about what happened up here that I'm looking at right now?
Up here, what are you talking about?
The cup performance, the league performance, the IGL
Oh,
performance,
I mean, well,
the trifecta.
we. It was worse last week because I had 4 losses last
Oh
week.
my
Yeah,
God. Four
I'm
lot,
not
that's
really
hard to
bound.
do.
Listen, I'm breaking all the wrong records at the moment. Um, by the way, I saw that you left Ben Mee on your bench versus Arsenal.
Yeah.
Do you not think that he has like pinnacle levels where you just always got to play him?
Yeah, but I still have like Arsenal of last season drilled into my brain where it's like feels like a bad start. And I was
Yeah.
I started Bogle against Bournemouth and Dara O'Shea against West Ham. I was like, these are good picks, but I think I overthought it. So he's coming
Yeah.
in next week against Luton. Don't worry.
Nice, nice, nice. And in terms of your FA grabs or waiver moves, who did you end up getting?
Yeah, so I transferred out Fodderingham to go set and forget David Raya. I think he's actually a really good goalkeeper. And beyond like the clean sheets, he should get a lot of saves because he is a good goalkeeper. So
Mm.
hopefully getting sort of like Allison-esque production out of him, maybe with a few less shots attempted. Picked up Ayer for the game against Luton. Hopefully he starts, but Luton is just such a good matchup for defenders because of all the aerial battles that they're looking to create to get like the knockdowns to create repossession.
Hmm.
And I have now picked up and dropped Lewis Hall, I think, 4 times in our league. So nothing new there, but I really believe in him. You probably know a little bit about him as like a Chelsea kid going forward for Newcastle at home. I feel like he should be able to put up some monster scores from left back.
Yeah, I mean, he put up 10 points in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Chelsea legend, obviously. But as in Chelsea fashion, we tend to not keep exciting, promising prospects. But it's weird, especially after signing every single child on the planet for an 8 to 10 year contract. He didn't get one. It was a little strange. But now I think we will unfortunately have to focus on my results.
Sanji, where did it go
Losses all
wrong?
around. Where did it go wrong? Okay, so
Maybe
we'll
where did
talk
it go
about
right
my.
first? Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's why we got Game It Good, you know? So in DPL Com League, yes, I had a loss in the cup in the league, but we usually just focus on the league because I feel like cups are you can't really plan for. I don't really plan for. If I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. But I came up against our league commish, I think, lost 113 to 44. Got fucking smashed, to be honest.
Smoked.
It didn't help that he had Marcus Tavernier. I'm just pulling it up. Yeah, he had Tavernier, he had Lo Celso, he had Poro. So those were like the majority of his points. But I guess if I had to take some positivity out of my game week, Tarkowski putting up positive digits even though he conceded 3. I mean, Douglas Luiz keeps cooking. Huang on penalties. That's a good sign, I guess, moving forward. My grabs like Goodmanson, although I benched him, he absolutely cooked. Got just under 16 points, all ghost points. And Livermento as well. Got a decent tidy haul of 6.5. So, I mean, moving forward, like, I know what to do. And it's weird, like, I remember pre-game week starting and on the pod, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to play both Goodmanson and Brownhill and either one of them is going to cook. And I obviously benched the one that, smashed it. But I mean, like, my regrets, I guess, would be, taking punts and not trusting my team and trusting my own advice. Punting on the likes of Danny Ings. I saw, oh my God, Ings versus a promoted team? Surely. Drops 0.5 points. And he only got that 0.5 on stat correction. So he really dropped a big fat 0, right? And I was at some like meets event, meeting like fellow content creators and stuff like that. So like the Arsenal Brentford lineup, I just automatically assumed in my head Matthias Jensen was starting because he never ever not starts. And I don't know if like I didn't notice the flag or whatever, but I remember watching the Arsenal Brentford game live and the team sheets come up and I was just like looking at the Brentford team. I was like, where the fuck is Matthias Jensen? And like obviously in Fantrax it does like that lock 1 minute before kickoffs, and that's usually when they show team sheets for any match. I was like, well, fuck me, it's too late to make the change now. And like he was basically stuck on my roster in like both my leagues, right? But whatever. My roster concern is definitely a massive concern. The two big things are I've got triple Everton defense. Is this a good idea or a bad idea, John?
Well, what's the triple?
Pickford, Mikolenko, and Tarkowski.
Yeah. I mean, Mikolenko and Tarkowski is a good idea. I don't totally love Pickford as a goalkeeper, but it's a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, so like the issue with like any triple is that you're really like living and dying by the clean sheet, and like introducing that like level of variance into your team by like one team's fortunes is going to turn you into like the biggest Everton hater of all time by the end of the season.
What's worse is that like I completely forgot that Raya was on waivers this week, and I should have probably moved on Kelleher as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, Kelleher might even turn out to be worse because Alisson single-handedly keeps Liverpool in games.
Yeah, I mean, Kelleher's fine, but like obviously getting like a above average long-term keeper is going to be better than getting in like an injury sub.
Yeah. Another concern is I've got 4 dead spots on my bench: Harvey Barnes, Eze, Jota, and Ivan Toney. So I'm playing with like one flexible spot, which is not a very comfortable feeling moving into this congested period of the season where everyone's going to be rotating, random people are going to be benched. Like, I might just have to roll with the punches at this point, because it's hard to drop anyone from my main starting roster. I might have to make some bold calls, ones that I'm not comfortable with, but I mean, you got to be ruthless.
What's your record, Sanji?
Sometimes to get wins. Oh God, it just gets worse with this conversation.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
It's fine. Honestly, I was avoiding looking at my table. I don't want to focus on it until like halfway through the season, but I'm 7 wins, 6 losses.
Oh, that's not too bad. I was gonna say if you're under 500 right now, it might be the time to start evaluating those Ivan Toney, Harvey Barnes roster positions.
Mate, I'd be evaluating whether or not I should be doing a podcast at all. Like, so quickly into IGL. Oh, by the way, the FA waiver move I basically did was the same thing on both teams, which was basically getting Jay Rodriguez. But in IGL, again, lost over there. I could have won there, which was sad. I lost 63 to 80. I guess the good stuff was we talked about Lucadinius just continuing to smash it. I also grabbed Lo Celso as a free agent in this league. I was so happy about that because I was a massive fan of his, not because he's Argentinian, but like when he first came into the league, like I had high hopes for
me
him.
too.
So I'm kind of glad that he's getting his opportunity now, and what a banger of a goal to like, kickstart your campaign in a sense. Regrets, again, same thing as not trusting my team, taking punts. I saw Townsend free, grabbed him, 0 points. Left Jensen frozen on my team, which forced me to bench Douglas Luiz and Goodmanson. So yeah, I could have easily won this game week. So there's no real roster concerns. Like, my team is healthy. I'm in a great spot in this league. I think I was just slacking off this game week a little bit. I was kind of just busy in the moment. I should have been a bit more focused. So yeah, I mean, I'll fix that moving forward. No other concerns.
Are you getting complacent, Sanchi?
A little bit, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, it's just fantasy football. Because, like, the thing is, like, I just recently moved and there's, like, a lot going on in my personal life and stuff like that. And, like, when that shit stresses you out, I'm like, do I really need fantasy football to be stressing me out? No.
Amen.
Plus, this is just more entertaining content for everyone else, right?
So, yeah, this is how you get led down the rabbit hole of transferring in Jay Rodriguez in multiple leagues.
There you go. Double down the pain. No, but come on. He's facing Sheffield United.
Yeah, but it's Burnley.
Like, it is literally the easiest fixture on paper, right?
Yeah, but I mean, so this is like Dumb and Dumber with Burnley and Sheffield United. It's the one team that I do not trust to perform against Sheffield United.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna get burned for it. But anyways, it'll be fine.
No, it's fun. I think if it was, since it's a double transfer, it's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
If he goes off, you got to make your like icon, two Jay Rodriguez's in the Dumb and Dumber suit,
just back to back. Yeah, love that. All right, cool. That is it for the first half of the pod. So we're gonna take a break, halftime pint, and we will be back with questions in a bit. And we are back. So quick check-in to the Champions League scores. All English teams are winning. That's good.
Coefficient, baby. That 5th place Aston Villa, we have our name on it.
There you go. Yeah, yo, man, that's gonna be so good. Like, you're going to definitely have to jump over the pond and come watch some Champions League games.
The very small pond between Norway and England.
Yeah,
the North.
I mean,
Sea.
swim if you have to, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're in the Conference League right now, and I love my baby, but if I didn't have this baby, I would be going with the boys to Bosnia in a couple weeks, and that would be electric.
Yeah, I can only imagine, man. I mean, listen, it's just a matter of time until you take him to some Villa games and stuff like that, right? So,
when my wife was pregnant, we were at the Brighton game, the last game of last season. So he's already been.
Love it. Maybe he just didn't have a very good view of the game. That's all. But he heard everything.
It was vibes.
Love it. All right, so we've got some questions from Twitter or X or whatever the fuck you want to call it, and we've got it from our Discord. Guys, come join our Discord. It's a fun place to be. But I guess, I don't know, since you're the guest, do I ask you the questions or do you want to take turns?
Well, this first one, I'll ask you. but I gotta say, this is my favorite part of the episode. I like to
Questions
get
after dark.
existential. Last time I was a little drunker, so hopefully this will be equally as fun for the listeners. So Draft Espresso asks, and as a preface, I thought this was a good question.
Yep.
After the draft, you're in a cycle between so one, sorting out your roster with help of waiver wire or trades, and two, game time decision making. For me, at least, these are two very different mindsets. Do you have any tips for staying objective slash consistent across the two?
Oh, this is like perfect timing because I mean, we touched on me kind of bitching about how usually dish out very good advice, but then I do the complete opposite in the game week, like as the game week kicks off. So I think, it might sound silly, but what's a nice strategy? I think start of the game week, like even the Sunday evening or Monday, once the game week has ended, like grab a sticky note, write down, what you think you should do or whatever, or like screen grab, set your lineup for the next game week, screen grab it, and just set it aside. And
Wow.
sure, the madness might kick off, people might be bench and stuff, but revisit that and see, like, okay, maybe what I'm saying makes sense. And don't get caught up in the hype of, oh, X player is free. Oh, Y player is free. They're starting, that's starting. And you start, creating all these imaginary hypotheticals, and you start dreaming a bit too big, and just keep it simple. Don't overthink it, keep it simple, and just enjoy the rewards of all that hard work that you spent preparing for your season by having a very good team that you drafted all along and stuff like that. I mean, you might not be in that situation where you drafted well, but I think for me personally, I think I might need to start doing that, is just trust yourself. Yeah.
Well said, Sanji.
Thank you.
From
I feel like I've reflected so much on this pod now.
yeah, get it all out, man. From my perspective, I think like the sorting out your roster element leads to the game time decision making element, and there's sort of like a virtuous cycle where like
Mm,
today I was like trying to put together an offer for Phil Foden,
yeah.
and there was just like nothing I could feasibly offer for him that didn't
Yeah.
make me like look like a dick. Um,
Hey, I say look like a dick. Be that dick, yo.
uh, which means that I'm in a good place where I have high value assets and
Yeah.
streamers.
Yeah.
And like ideally you want your roster to constantly be consolidating mid-tier assets
Yeah.
into high value assets
Yeah.
and then replacing the mid-tier assets with streamers until you can get sort of like the most 10 plus points per game players that you can have. And so
Yeah.
like I'll drop people that are good, that have value that I could have traded out, maybe, just so I can stream players in. Which is sort of like the making my life a little bit harder. But for example, like last weekend, it was just like I'm dropping Bully.
Yeah.
Like let laugh and let live. Like Niakate and Mario are being preferred. Uh, Felipe is God knows where, but theoretically still exists. Scott McKenna
Yeah.
is sometimes starting. Like I don't need to deal with this, and the players that can stream in, we can get this value back somewhere else. And so
Yeah.
like I think believing in yourself there is important, but also, knowing when to walk away.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing in any sort of like gambling odds type situation is like when you see the downturn, if you act early, that's always better than acting too late.
Yeah. Wise words, man. We should do like a lifestyle pod. That's what we should do.
Yeah, yeah. We're actually going to start a cult, guys. So thanks for listening. But see you next week. Same time, same place.
Of course.
Okay. This. Do you want to read the next question?
Yeah. So it's from Kalindo at Kalindo1234. So thanks for the Tavernier advice last week. Helped me big time. And what he wants to know is Udogi, Livermento, Toffolo, Ake, or Benmi until game week 19. I mean, instead of picking one from all of the 5, why don't we rank them?
Yeah, great call. And I think it's interesting that you called him K-Lindo there, because I would have gone with Clindo.
Well, you got both versions now.
So K-Lindo or Clindo. What's the ranking here? For me, it's Ben Me 1. Udogie 2. Toffolo 3. Livermento 4. Ake 5. I haven't been keeping up with Ake, but City's schedule is like hellacious.
I mean, City defenders.
And he's rotatable. But he's like, of them, he is the best, right? That was my impression. Yeah.
But I mean, he's getting like these random attacking returns every now and then, so that's also probably inflating his points a little bit. Right?
Yeah, which is okay. So if I'm allowed to do my Harry Toffolo spiel, he had 2 of the worst assists of all time against Aston Villa, and that alone is making him look like a good option to people. Where he's not bad, but he is a replacement level stream defender.
Fair. I mean, I probably would have left Toffolo, like put Toffolo a bit higher. So I mean, gut call. I'd say Benmi first, then Livermento, then Toffolo, then Udogie, then Ake.
Udogie is just so interesting because, like, on paper, bad, on performance, good.
Yeah.
And at some point, I feel like he has to turn it around.
At some point, right? And
or not. I mean, or he just never does. But like,
yeah.
I mean, the attacking positions he was getting into against Villa was just like outrageous. He missed like a 1-on-1 where he didn't even pepper the keeper. But if he just tamely hits it into the arms of Emi Martinez, suddenly it's like a much better score for that game week.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of players that look good, eye test, shit Fantrax option. Right? But it's just like it's just that, like, with Spurs being in such chaos, like, I'm not expecting clean sheets anytime soon, and I feel like he's a better attacking player with Spurs at, you know, their full-fledged evolved version or whatever, with everyone fit, everyone purring, like, so that's why he's low for me.
Spurs fixtures until game week 19 are also terrible.
Yeah.
So like with the until game week 19 caveat, I'm not totally sure what's happening in game week 19. Maybe it's like a half season league. But yeah, you're right. Udogie should be lower on the ranking.
Oh yeah, he might be the half season league guy, because I remember we got a question about that at some point.
Yeah. So then
Fair.
Udogie would have to be lower. I mean, like, Benmi is so clear number 1 out of this group, though, that
even though he has a blank in 18.
Oh, does he have a blank in 18?
Yeah, City and Brentford blank in 18.
So would he have played City that week?
Yeah, that's a good question, eh?
So is that a net positive score?
So I guess we gotta... So let's put now Udogie, Ake, and Benmi at the bottom of the barrel. Now the debate is Livermento versus Toffolo.
Oh my god. No, Benmi with a blank is better than them two. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, Dude,
See, the thing
is Livermento good?
Oh, he's fantastic. Is he nailed? That's the question.
No. I mean, I love the confidence with which you said he's fantastic, but is he?
Yeah, he's so good. I think he's great. I mean, this is also a lot of heavy Chelsea bias because he was one of
because
our
he was
kids,
like so good for the under 21s for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, like in that 90 against Chelsea, I thought he was pretty good. He bagged 8 points. Before that, in 90 minutes against Arsenal and Bournemouth, he put up 3.2 points in my league. And then before that season, he had put up like 1.3 points or something. I don't know if I see it for fantasy.
I mean, nailed options, you've got Ben Mee, Toffolo, and Udogi. And I
Lewis
think
Hall
in that
in
order,
45 minutes put up
10 point.
90% of Livermento's points for the entire season.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. but yeah, again, it's like if you need a nailed starter, you're looking at Ben Mee, Toffolo, and Udogi. If you want, like, if you have the flexibility, then you're looking at Livermento, Ake, and I think exactly in those orders. But I think we're kind of agreed. Like, if you can somehow survive that blank, then Ben Mee is probably your best option.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So our next question. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah. You could also theoretically drop Ben Mee and put in whoever in game week 18
From that
or
list.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like you should run with
That
him
too.
until
Yeah.
So Robbie P at a team of Karas, big time content creator, asks, discarding that 30-point score against Burnley, Cash is scoring 4 points per start. Is it time to drop/trade out for peanuts?
I mean, this is a question that is really one for you to answer.
The
I'm a
Matty
cash
Cash
owner,
expert,
so
Sanji, give us your thoughts.
So you know what? Is it a glutton? Something for pain. What is the
Glutton
word
for
I'm looking
punishment?
Yes, that's the saying. And I'm like, I know Cash is bad, and he's not scoring points, and you take away that lucky ass clean sheet that he got against Luton by coming off early away, and his score looks even worse. But it's like Bournemouth up next. Surely he's gonna finally put another goal in. Like, and maybe I should clarify. A goal in the opponent's net, not his own one. Because I did that with Webster, and it turned out exactly like that.
That's incredible.
So, I mean, I don't know, man. What do you do? What do you do at this point? Like, because I don't think I can get trade value for him. I don't think anyone's going to give me fab, like more than 5 fab, let's say. Do I just, stick him into my bench as depth and hope that things eventually turn around?
I actually think that you were sort of like on to the truth here, which is that you hold against Bournemouth and hope he puts up 10 plus, and then you try and trade out for, like luxury peanuts. I don't think
Like pistachios.
I don't think a drop is
Or
a
cashews.
bad call either. I mean, like Cash is a Tino Livermento in the sense that he's sort of like a pretty fundamentally defensive winger, and that doesn't have or fullback, and that doesn't have a ton of value in Fantrax. I think like a good comp is sort of like a Tyreek Mitchell. Now, obviously, him playing right mid a couple of times this season has inflated his value and his perception. So if he plays right mid again against Bournemouth, which is possible because it's an away fixture, and let's say he bags a goal or something, suddenly maybe you can sucker someone into trading you. I don't know, Philip Billing, who I wouldn't even really want in a trade, but maybe you could sucker someone into doing it. Sounds like a reasonable deal.
I was thinking of an unreasonable deal, but it's because I feel like way too many managers are giving this guy unnecessary heat. Is Jack Grealish. What
Oh
if I
yeah.
send it to the Jack Grealish owner? Be like, hey, here's a playing player, give me your drunk, bouncy haired kid that refuses or, doesn't look good for the champions anymore.
Yeah, I feel the need to like defend Jack Grealish for some reason in the Discord. I
You
found
have
myself
been. I
found
think you've
myself
been
feeling
doing a
very
good job at it.
defensive,
Yeah.
where it was like he was throwing up. How has his stock gone down? And then they were like, "Oh, but Doku had a really good game." I was like, "Yeah, that's it. Yeah, fair enough. He did have a really good game, but I feel like it's not a stock down. Like Doku's having a good season."
Yeah. He is. He's absolutely killing it. All right. Next question is from YaoG8. So he has Neto and missed out on waivers for Flecken. So he's asking which of the following goalkeepers should he hold for the Christmas break. So he sent us a screenshot of some of the options in his pool. We're looking at Sam Johnston, Fotheringham, Turner, Pickford, Kaminsky, Trafford, Ramsdale, Vlachodimos, Verbruggen, Strakosha, and it just keeps getting fucking worse. So I'm not gonna list the last name. What are your thoughts? One name jumps out to me immediately, and I know he's not gonna be a popular option, but I've been saying on the last few pods he's just ticking along quietly with points.
Yeah. I like that he went for the in this house we say Merry Christmas, not Happy Holidays. Or festive period to make it football appropriate. It's a Christmas
Yeah.
break. It's not the festive period. um, the name that sticks out to me on waivers is Vlachodimos.
Yeah, I like that.
That's really the only one that's calling to me, I have to say.
Is Kaminsky a terrible idea? Because
Yeah, dude, come on, man. Also, like, they clearly have like weird goalkeeper scoring because like Kaminsky's scoring 4.5 points a game. So like it's a pretty significant difference from like Vlaco Dimos's per game scoring to Kaminsky's. I mean, he's scoring almost like 1.7x more, which I mean, I don't know how their overall scoring is set up, but nearly doubling the output there is pretty valuable.
also, I mean, the fact that he has Neto, you tipped Neto to probably be one of the best goalkeepers rest of season. I don't know if the fact that he scored 0 points this game week is the reason YaoG8 is maybe having a reactionary moment.
Yeah.
I'd say just hold Neto
Hold
in that case,
Neto.
right? If you still have him. Yeah.
Hold Neto, but Vlaco Dimos I do think is like a good option and is like a half tier below Neto or like lower in the same tier. Where like the Forest and Bournemouth keepers should be good fantasy options.
Yeah. True. All right.
Okay.
We have another question.
Here we got FA Scout. He sent this message in at high noon and he said, "Is Barkley a keep or a drop?" Had a disappointing weekend.
I feel like Fantrax managers these days are more reactionary than before. Is it me or is it like I hope I'm like not knocking on like the people asking us questions, but just the other day it feels like Barkley was like the hot thing that came out. And
dude,
one bad game and people are like, nah, terrible, drop
But
it.
I think you're actually pointing at the right issue here, which is that Barkley was the hot thing in the first place. Which was like, that's, for me, that's the real reactionaryism where it's like, look, I can't even talk because I have him in one of my leagues. Well, not one in my league. But he'll be dropped.
Yeah.
And this question actually provoked some soul searching in me because I was like, is there a Luton asset that is truly worth using a roster spot on?
Mm.
And I have come to the conclusion that the answer is no. And I would like to hear your thoughts on this, Sanji. Is there any Luton player that you think is worth using a roster spot on? And this doesn't mean if they have a good run of fixtures. This means like you're holding on to them for the year unless they get injured or you trade them.
Alfie Doughty and Carlton Morris, maybe.
But are like, are you happy if you're rolling out Alfie Doughty every week?
It could be worse. I've got worse players that I'm rolling out every week.
Seriously?
So, yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, since October 7th, Doughty has played, he's started every match, and he's, in my league, put up scores of 8.8, fine, 10.7, good, 1.3 against Villa, 7.9 against Liverpool, 6.9 against Manchester United, 7.6 against Crystal Palace. Like, that is the definition of replacement level, and you're using it on a midfielder that is never going to have good fixtures because he plays for Luton.
Very good point.
I mean, like, maybe eventually Luton plays Sheffield United and Burnley back to back or something, but like fundamentally, like, Palace at home is a target fixture for any team, and Luton won that game, and he still only put up 7.6 points.
Damn, that is some hard truth right there.
And
I mean, listen, I
don't
totally
get me started on Carlton
like,
Morris. Have you seen his points since
it gets
the
worse.
same match? It's like, that's outrageous.
And he's 85% rostered.
It's insane. It's insane. And then you like try and talk yourself into like the hot new thing where it's like, ooh, Chidozie Benny, you know, ooh, Tendon Mengi, ooh, Jacob Brown actually has crazy XG plus XGA. And it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's pretty sad. I mean, obviously, if you look at like the season as a whole, like the names that we've mentioned are the ones that will obviously be at the top because they've had such a banging start to the season. But you look at the last few game weeks, yeah, they're pretty fucking dire options, man. Pretty bad.
You know who was sort of appealing to me before they got hurt was Reece Burke, because he was putting up a lot of ghost points. That was like the one person that sort of stood out to me when I watched them, as well as Kabore.
Yeah.
So I think like if I was going to own any Luton assets long term, those would be the two, but they're both hurt. So
yeah, and the thing is like I feel like the only safe play is when they're at home as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I they're in my league, which is 16 team. 7 players are owned, and like a bunch of them are going to get immediately dropped. So like Marvelous Nakamba is owned right now for some reason. I have no idea why.
It's like I need to like just give me a second. Let me just DM this manager real quick. Like, what the hell are you doing with your life?
Yeah, honestly, I was like, I just got concerned.
Oh, that's great. I mean, FA Scout, you could probably drop him.
Yeah,
that I think is
drop.
the conclusion.
If you have to ask, drop.
Yeah. All right. Last question is from one of the fan favorites, one of the big voices in our Discord, our Man City Inside Tracks rep, 32 Chickens, Ben. So this is another Villa-related question. Diaby and Bailey, is this turning into a timeshare? If you held both, asking for a friend, of course, is it time to cut losses, i.e. sell Diaby, or just knuckle down, or give thanks for these wonderful choices going into the crowded rotational December?
Yeah, so I mean, great question. 32 chickens, and also very Villa appropriate, which I'm thankful for. Um, so Diaby plus Bailey, is this turning into a timeshare? I think the definitive answer is no, but have Diaby's performances been slightly disappointing recently? Yes. Um, and he looks a bit tired and looks like he's coming to terms with like the long-term physicality of the league, which is normal growing pains, I think. And actually, just sort of like to bolster the Diaby Bailey timeshare point, like Yuri Tielemans actually came on and played the Diaby position, and Bailey
Mm.
played the Matty Cash position. Now, obviously, this is like specifically for this game. Bailey did come on in the Diaby position in the previous game, but Diaby is still the no doubt starter. He just needs to start putting in more consistent performances. And anyone who's been like a European football observer over the last few years knows that Diaby does have consistent performances in his locker. It's just a matter of the team unlocking that. And I think the Tottenham fixture in particular was like way too chaotic for him and way too fast paced. Those are the games that he's sort of struggled in this year from my own personal perspective are the teams that like are really intense in their pressure.
I'm really happy like Bailey's absolutely banging the season.
Oh, dude.
But like I'm assuming, is it like just injury worries that he's not starting?
Mm-mm.
Like in the league at least.
So he's like turning into our uh this is going to be flattery by comparison, but into like our version of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, where
Fair.
like he has way more impact off the bench, and every single game that he's started in the league that I can recall, he's flattered to deceive and been incredibly disappointing. But from the bench, when he has the opportunity to run at tired defenders and play in space, he is electric and has really made the difference in a number of games this season. And it seems like Emery's finally found like a role that he can thrive in. And we can't undersell how important the conference league is here in terms of keeping these players happy and motivated, where Bailey gets a start every week basically, and then comes in to the first team game looking for about like 45 to 30 minutes to show his stuff. And that balance has been really healthy for us. It's just, of course, slightly disappointing for fantasy managers that would be hoping that Villa have a few more 90-minute plus nailed starters when it seems like really in the league, you're only getting that from Douglas Luiz and Ollie Watkins and the
Yeah.
defenders, of course, but they're not great ghost point defenders.
Yeah. I mean, Luca Digne is, but
I was thinking like Torres and Kansa.
yeah. They're not good.
Torres scored
Fan
this
Jack's not
weekend.
good.
He scored 2 goals
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So, like, Leon Bailey, this season, if you play with auto subs, best asset out there, I think.
Yeah.
Because eye test wise, he gets subbed on, and you're like, oh, this kid is gonna cause chaos. A goal is definitely coming. Like, you can sense it every single time. And
Especially at home. This is a great stat. I think if he scores one more goal at home without scoring away, he will set the all-time record for most goals scored at home in the Premier League before scoring away.
wow.
So he's never scored away. This is a valuable piece of information for Fantrax managers.
What's crazy is that, like, I mean, there are 3 players tied on 3 goals, which is the third highest number or whatever, tally, whatever, for like the Premier League for you guys. But he's done it in 380 minutes alone.
Mm.
Like, that's kind of mental, man.
His per
And-
minute rate was better than Hullum, I think. Like his per minute rate is crazy this season.
It's crazy, and like he's only started 2 games. Like,
Yeah.
it's wild. It's wild.
But I'm just here to say he's only started 2 games for a reason. So like
Yeah.
to answer the question, it's not a real timeshare, and there's room for both Diaby and Bailey. The question is just, can we get Diaby performing consistently like he was at the beginning of the season?
Yeah. Would you ever start Bailey as a, like, if he's bench, would you start him? Like, let's say, Christmas congestion period, you've got a bunch of players that are bench right now. Surely, like, if you own Bailey is one of those players that you risk just throwing in your lineup and assuming that he comes off the bench and has an impact.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Bailey is ownable, personally, even though he is having like a big impact from the bench. Like, you want consistent scoring in Fantrax, and when you're relying on someone coming off the bench, like if suddenly the game doesn't suit it, the team is 3-0 up, and Emery puts on defensive options to just shut up shop. Suddenly you're locked into a 0 for the week. In that sort of like variance, I can't tolerate. I want like players that ghost well in my teams, to set like a floor for performance.
Yeah.
Because you never know when your opponent's gonna roll out with like a 60-point week.
Yeah. He's 65% owned, which is why I
As
asked.
so look, I don't want to call anyone dumb, but owning a player that has made 2 starts in the league is not smart. It's not smart.
Yeah.
And Villa are playing City and Arsenal soon, albeit at home. So it's not a great time to own any Villa assets. After that, they go to Brentford away, which is a really tough fixture.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, this Bournemouth game is like almost a must win for the Champions League race for Villa. Because I mean, I think we could easily come away from City, Arsenal, and Brentford away with 0 points.
Fair.
Yeah.
I mean, Christmas time is always an unpredictable time of the season, right? Some wild shit always happens. Fucking hell, we've got a Christmas Eve game, for crying out loud. Cannot believe
nuts.
that's happening.
Who's playing in that?
Obviously Chelsea.
Seriously?
Yeah, Chelsea Wolves.
Oh my god, what a oh, it's gonna not be entertaining to watch.
It's a good thing it's Christmas and we'll probably be plastered. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah. All right, so those are the questions, and that is the pod.
Beautiful.
That's a wrap, John. Did you have fun again? Did you enjoy it?
Of course, man. That's why that's why I keep coming back. Potting with you is like a drug, Sanji.
Oh, love it. Just inject
me
that
coming
shit
back
into
for
my
more.
veins. Love it. Do you have any final pieces of advice or anything you want to say before we sign off?
No, just, I feel like across the board, it's getting a little dark. People are getting a little down, and just to remember to keep having fun. You do this in the first place to have fun, and it's a game that we all like playing. So obviously it's a little better when you're winning, but just try and keep a smile on your face, and try and do things that help you enjoy this game that we're playing. And like if it's changing how you watch the games for the worse or something like that, maybe evaluate that. I don't know, but try and consume the content in a way that makes you happy, and it'll help you get through these long and hard weeks. I know I'm grinding it out in the office right now before Christmas, so
Yeah. I
before the
mean,
festive period.
yeah. We got to respect all our listeners out there, you know. I mean, I know I previewed this as like Game Week 14, 15, 16 pod, and we didn't really, I guess, cover the content in that way or whatever. But typically, like, I mean, you being an experienced Targa slash Fantrax manager, especially this time around where games are thick and fast, we got 3 game weeks in 1 week. What would you say has worked best for you surviving this sort of, I don't know, deathly period?
Well,
in a
yeah,
sense?
great question. I mean, to be honest, I like these past, oh God, this is going to be depressing. These past 3 years that we've had COVID have been
Yeah,
so bad for the
yeah,
fixture congestion and like the
yeah,
double game weeks, and I just like always check out in this period. So I
yeah,
might not be like the best person to ask. I think each of like the last 2 seasons I was up near the top of the table, if not in the top of the table, and just like totally evaporated once the COVID postponements started happening. Um, so I'm really crossing my finger for no COVID postponements this season.
yeah,
Oh my fucking God. But barring the COVID postponements, I think what's really important is what I've done well this season, which is keeping flexibility in your bench.
yeah.
So, uh, if you're Sanji, maybe start eyeing those Harvey Barnes, Ivan Toney spots and thinking about the cost benefit of cutting bait, even though you've held them all season and they're
Yeah.
your beautiful children and you can't stand to see them go. You know, sometimes you need to be an empty nester and think maybe they'll be better off without me. So, like in terms of my roster right now, I have
Yeah.
Simicas, O'Shea, me, Hall, and Ayer. And other than Ben Me, nothing would happen if I saw one of those guys walk out that door. Like, I would feel nothing. Maybe Lewis Hall, you know, I have like a slight amount of attachment to. But for like the
Yeah.
festive period, this is like super useful because
Eh,
really you're just trying to get marginal gains through streams and availability.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to a podcast like this, I know that you're already on top of it. So
Mhm.
don't like let your attachment to a player force you to waste uh, a blank
Yeah.
because these games count just as much as the other games. And suddenly you might find yourself in a hole that you can't dig yourself out of. So
Yeah.
um, I'm live right now dropping Ross Barkley just to put my mouth where my money where my mouth is.
Yeah.
And now I have a empty bench spot. What am I going to use it for? Who knows? So hopefully something better than Ross Barkley.
Yeah. So just be flexible. That's a great fucking advice. That's something we love saying as well. Like it's always useful to have that one open spot in your roster, especially when the games are just weird right now.
Yeah.
And you kind of want something in your back pocket to pull out at the last second.
Can I give
Yeah.
you a little sneaky back pocket pick?
Yeah, go for it.
I've been eyeing this man up and down all season, just waiting for the starts to start hitting. And that is the Colombian legend, Luis Sinisterra from Bournemouth.
Oh,
Because in his cameo performance, he is saucing.
yeah.
And we just need to get him out there on the pitch. I mean, he's averaging almost as many points per game as Semenyo from the bench as Semenyo is starting. And
Yeah.
Semenyo's been pretty good. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I'm that is the number one player I would have my finger on the trigger for these rotation minutes.
That's an excellent shout. Love that. For me, I mean, I don't really have any useful advice. If you want useful advice, listen back to the pod or listen to our waivers pod. What can I tell you? But I think just to reiterate what John said, have fun. We're into the festive period of the year now. Now, I mean, if fantasy's shit, go have fun with your family. Enjoy all the mulled wine. If you don't drink, enjoy the non-alcoholic mulled wine. I don't know, eat lots of cake, sweet things. If you're vegan, well then God help you during this festive period. I don't know vegan recipes, but yeah, enjoy the break, guys. If you have any questions, come join the Discord, DM us. We're constantly chatting every day. Happy to drop advice, feedback, that sort of stuff. Run polls, But yeah, until the next episode then, or next time I see you, John. Peace.
Peace.